friends, and welcome back to another video. I apologize in advance for my voice. I definitely feel under the weather, but all good things here. So I wanted to share this little painting I did not too long ago. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have already seen this painting that I shared. It's just this simple still life of a light pink rose, a lemon, and a teacup. I was thinking about it all day at work one day, and oh, bless you, that was Luna sneezing in the background. I was thinking about it all day at work one day, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna paint this the second I get home. So that's what I decided to film and share with you guys for this week. I'm going to go through this process with you and kind of just explain my thought process. I always find that to be very helpful when I watch other painters explain kind of what they're thinking throughout their process, because sometimes when you see somebody paint something and it's very broken up and they're not explaining everything, it's really hard to kind of put all the pieces together when you decide to go and paint something. So yeah. Right now, as you can see, I am kind of drawing out, sketching, finding the lines here of where I'm placing this still life. So none of these lines are the final lines. I'm kind of just playing around with the shape and seeing what I like. Considering the size of this panel. This panel is a 5x7 linen, and today's medium will be traditional oil paints. Speaking about mediums, while I continue to sketch, I thought I'd talk a little bit about exploring different mediums, because as of lately I've really been itching to play with watercolors, and I've always thought and said that watercolors are the hardest medium to learn, and I definitely still think so, because I feel like you kind of have to let the paint do its thing rather than have control over it, and I have no idea how to handle that. But it's been really exciting to kind of start something new, having the knowledge of playing with another medium like oil paints. So I'm curious if you guys have dabbled into different mediums after a while, or if you juggle all of them at the same time, because this is definitely a first for me, I would say. I did start in acrylic paints and then move over to oil paints, but I felt like it was a small transition compared to oil paints to watercolors. So I'm curious to know what different mediums you guys use. Definitely let me know down in the comments. Okay, so back to the painting now that I'm adding some paint to the panel. What I'm doing here is using the paint to help me carve out the shapes. So I definitely erased some of those lines I had sketched out before, but now I'm intentionally filling out the background, and I'm using it to carve out the lemon and the plate of the teacup. Also, excuse the drastic light change. I felt like my camera was making it look very dark, so then I switched over to my phone, and somehow my phone made it look super bright and it was the same exact lighting, and I thought it'd be a little better for you guys to see the colors that I'm using. So I'm working on the shadow of the lemon here, and it's the first object I decide to work on, and honestly the last object I end up working on. For some reason, I just couldn't get that lemon right, the shape, the color, everything. And it was the last thing that I changed at the very end of the painting, and I got it. But I'm starting off with that now by adding in the shadow, the mid-tone, and not quite the highlight, but a lighter value for sure to help with forming the roundness of this lemon. I love painting lemons because their shadows tend to be very green, and there's something that I really love about that, because it's something you would never really think of before painting. You would just look at a lemon and think it's yellow, but every time I've painted one, the shadows look very green to me, and it's honestly one of my favorite things. And now we've kind of moved on to the teacup. I started to sketch out the plate here and realized that the teacup was kind of just in the way, so I decided to erase it and paint the roundness of the plate first, and then I would just paint the teacup over it. I felt like it was the best way to really get the plate to look correct. And before we continue on with this painting, I want to take a short break and thank today's sponsor. You guys know these are my absolute favorite pair of glasses. These are the Soto base frames, and what I love about Pair Eyewear is that you can get these top frames and just completely change your look without the cost of having to buy another pair of glasses. Feel free to browse their website at paireyewear.com. They have a variety of base frames and top frames that you can choose from. If you decide to shop, make sure to use the code AnnaCornejoArt15 to get 15% off your first pair of glasses. Thank you so much to Pair Eyewear for sponsoring today's video. Now that we're developing the teacup, I actually remember something that I learned once that I find to be really helpful to remember when painting teacups. Because sometimes when you are looking at what you're painting, you could kind of just get lost and not remember what you're painting. But one helpful thing with painting a teacup is the inside rim of the teacup will be the opposite in lighting with the outside of the teacup. I don't know if I'm explaining that right. So on the inside, you can see that the shadow will be on the left, the light is hitting the right side. But the outside of the teacup will be the opposite. So the light will be on the left and the shadow will be on the right. And right now I'm kind of just developing that, so it's not so obvious right now, but towards the end of the painting, you'll definitely see the kind of switch in lighting there, and that's what's going to help it look really round. Because if you kind of think about the light hitting the teacup, it's going to hit the right side of the inside of the cup, but it's going to hit the left side of the outside. I know that might sound really confusing, but every time I paint a teacup now, it's the first thing I instantly go to. I mean, of course, if the light is hitting from the right side, then it would be the opposite. But it's something helpful to know, even though you're looking at the subject yourself. You kind of just get lost, and going into the painting, knowing these little tips, I feel like can set you up for a successful painting, so I thought I'd share that with you guys. Here I am just going to quickly fill in the rows. Looking at this painting now, I definitely feel like I could have smoothed out some edges on the left side of the rose, especially because it's in the back. Maybe take the focus point a little bit away from the rose. But overall, it's an okay rose. Roses are definitely one of the hardest things to paint, I think, still. So it was definitely a challenge, but it came out pretty okay. And then you can see here this lemon, I decided to add a lot of orange into it because I realized that the yellow looked very dull. The lemon almost didn't look real. And I realized adding this orange really helped, and it really could be the rose and the lemon kind of bouncing off of each other that's creating this warmth. But I feel like making that final change to the lemon really helped. And here is the final painting. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you here very soon.